Recognizing the prison of fear. Fear is not just an emotion. It is a prison that keeps millions of people locked away from their true potential. Think about how many times you've had a dream, an idea, or a vision for your life, but instead of pursuing it, you hesitated. Why? Because fear whispered in your mind, what if you fail? What if they laugh at you? What if you're not good enough? And in that moment, you chose safety over growth, comfort over courage, survival over freedom. But the truth is, fear is not reality. It is only a shadow. It feeds on your imagination. It takes a small doubt and magnifies it until it feels overwhelming. Fear is like a prison guard that doesn't even have real power, yet it convinces you to stay behind bars. The chains of fear are heavy, but they are not unbreakable. Recognizing the prison of fear means becoming aware of how it shows up in your daily life. It could be the fear of rejection that keeps you from speaking your truth, the fear of failure that stops you from starting that business, writing that book, or taking that chance. The fear of judgment that makes you silence your own voice. Fear doesn't always roar loudly. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, disguised as logic or safety. But its effect is the same. It keeps you small. The first step toward freedom is awareness. You must pause and ask yourself, is this fear real? Or is it a story my mind is creating? Most of the time, the fear you feel is not about what's happening now, but about what might happen in the future, or what has happened in the past. But life is happening here, in this present moment, and in the present, fear has no power. Recognize that fear is not who you are. It is not your identity. It is not your truth. It is only a conditioned response, a thought that you've allowed to take root. Once you see this clearly, you begin to loosen the chains. You begin to remember that you are not a prisoner. You are a soul created for freedom, purpose, and expansion. And that realization is the key that begins to unlock the door. Breaking the illusion, fear only has as much power as you give it. Most of the time, what we fear is not the actual event or situation, it's the idea of it. For example, many people fear failure, but failure itself does not destroy you. In fact, failure teaches, refines, and strengthens you. What people truly fear is not failure, but the emotions tied to it, the shame, the disappointment, the judgment. When you see it clearly, you realize the chains of fear are made of illusions, not reality. Fear magnifies shadows. Imagine a small object placed in front of a bright light. It casts a huge shadow on the wall. The shadow looks terrifying, but when you move closer, you see it was only something small all along. That's how fear works. It exaggerates, it distorts, it convinces you that the risk is bigger than it really is. But once you step toward it, you discover the shadow was never as powerful as it seemed. Breaking the illusion of fear requires courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear. Courage is saying, I feel afraid, but I will not let fear decide my life. Every time you move in the direction of your fear, the illusion weakens. Every time you take a step of faith, you prove to yourself that fear was lying. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have I lost because I believed in fear more than I believed in myself? How many doors stayed closed because I never had the courage to knock? The truth is, fear will always be there. It's part of being human. But it doesn't have to control you. The more you act, the more fear loses its grip. Think of it like chains around your wrists. At first they feel unbreakable, but with every act of courage, the chains weaken. With every step of faith, they loosen. Until one day, you realize you are no longer bound. You are free, not because fear disappeared, but because you chose not to obey it anymore. Break. Killing fear's illusion is a spiritual awakening. It is remembering that you are greater than your doubts, stronger than your fears, and more capable than your mind gives you credit for. Once you see fear for what it really is, a shadow, you no longer bow down to it. You rise above it, living in freedom, Living free from fear does not mean you will never feel afraid again. It means fear no longer has authority over your decisions. It means your spirit is no longer held hostage by illusions. Instead of avoiding fear, you walk with courage. Instead of shrinking back, you rise up. Instead of hiding, you shine. When you break the chains of fear, you begin to live a life of truth and purpose. You no longer say, "What if I fail?" Instead, you say, "What if I fly?" You no longer silence your dreams, you pursue them boldly. You no longer apologize for being who you are. You live unapologetically, with authenticity and power. Freedom is not about never facing challenges. True freedom is knowing that no challenge can take away your inner peace, your strength, or your purpose. Fear might still knock at your door, but it no longer has the keys to your house. Doubt may whisper in your ear, but it no longer controls your path. You move forward with clarity, guided not by fear, but by faith. And here's the beautiful thing. When you free yourself from fear, you also inspire others to do the same. People will see your courage and feel encouraged to face their own fears. Your freedom becomes a light, showing others that it's possible to live unchained. This is the essence of spiritual awakening. Realizing that fear was never your master. You are not here to live in chains. You are not here to shrink or to hide. You are here to expand, to grow, to express your gifts, to fulfill your purpose. Living in freedom means stepping into your highest self, the version of you that fear tried to silence but could never destroy. So live boldly, speak with truth, act with courage, love deeply. And remember this: fear is temporary, but freedom is eternal. Once you break the chains, you don't just change your life, you light the way for generations after you. As we close this journey together, take a moment to breathe deeply and reflect on what we have uncovered. Fear has been your silent companion for too long, an unwelcome shadow that has whispered lies into your mind and held you back from the life you were born to live. You now see that fear is not truth, fear is not destiny, and fear is certainly not your identity. It is only a story, an illusion, a chain that you have the power to break. We began by recognizing the prison of fear. Fear convinces you that you are small, that your voice doesn't matter, that your dreams are too big. It tells you to stay safe, to stay quiet, to stay hidden. But every time you bow down to fear, the walls of that invisible prison grow taller. The good news is that you now see the prison for what it really is, not a life sentence, but a test. Awareness is the first key to freedom. The moment you realize fear is only a shadow, you have already taken your first step toward liberation. Then we went deeper into the illusion of fear. We exposed its lies. The things you are afraid of, failure, rejection, judgment, are not as powerful as they seem. They do not destroy you. In truth, they shape you, teach you, and prepare you for greater strength. Think back on your life. How many times did the fear of something turn out to be worse than the thing itself? The shadow always looks bigger than the object creating it, but the moment you step closer, the illusion fades. When you move toward fear with courage, you realize it was never as strong as you imagined. And then we looked at what it means to truly live in freedom. Freedom does not mean fear vanishes forever. It means fear loses control over your choices. It means you stop letting fear dictate your path and start letting faith, courage, and vision guide you. It means you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I fly?" That is the mindset of the free. That is the mindset of the awakened soul. Now let's bring it all together. Breaking the chains of fear is not just about improving your life. It is about stepping into your true identity. You are not meant to live small. You are not meant to hide your gifts. You are not meant to silence your dreams. You are meant to expand, to grow, to shine, and to inspire. The chains of fear tried to convince you otherwise, but the truth has always been within you. You are free. You always were. So what do you do now? You practice. You choose courage again and again. You take the small steps even when your heart beats fast. You speak your truth even when your voice shakes. You pursue your dreams, even when the path is unclear. And with every choice you make, the chains weaken. With every act of faith, the prison walls crumble. With every moment of courage, you remind your spirit that it was never meant to bow down to fear. Here is the deeper spiritual truth. Fear is the greatest teacher of freedom. It shows you where you are still chained. It reveals the places where your soul is asking you to grow. When you face fear and walk through it, you not only break your own chains, you become an example to others. You show your family, your friends, your community that it is possible to live boldly. Your life becomes a testimony of freedom. And let us be clear. Freedom is not just about chasing big dreams. Freedom is also about how you live each day. It's about speaking up when something matters to you. It's about loving fully without holding back. It's about choosing joy even when life is heavy. It's about living with authenticity, refusing to wear masks just to please others. Every small act of courage is an act of freedom. So I leave you with this. Fear will always try to return. It will knock at your door, sometimes softly, sometimes loudly. But you now know the truth. You don't have to open the door. You don't have to obey its commands. You don't have to wear its chains. You can breathe, stand tall, and say, "Fear, you no longer control me. I choose freedom." This is your moment. This is your calling. Do not let fear steal another day of your life. Do not let it silence your soul. Break the chains once and for all and walk boldly into the life you were created for. Because beyond fear lies your true self. Beyond fear lies your destiny. Beyond fear lies freedom. And that freedom is waiting for you. Not tomorrow, not someday, but right now. Step forward. Live free. The world is waiting for the light that only you can shine.